And we're live. Good morning, Chad. How you doing, man?
We're live. I am good. It is snowing outside just in time for Christmas, and I'm all about it. Kids are loving it.
We couldn't tell you have any
hanging out.
kids from your background.
Yeah, right. So it's good. Going into the weekend strong, and I'm loving I guess I'll call it the industry buzz around and conversation on what's the best Christmas movie. I'm like, that's a great topic. I think our Rising Tides friends were talking about that an hour ago.
What's your favorite Christmas movie?
I almost got it wrong. My gut response was, that one we had watched in Tampa not long ago, which was Scrooged. But
okay.
I thought about it harder, and it's like, no, it's Christmas Vacation. What am I talking about?
See, mine's A Christmas Story.
Okay.
I love Christmas Story, but my wife would describe me as Clark Griswold. Like I always have these big, grand intentions. They never seem to go exactly according to plan. So that I probably don't do Christmas Vacation because it's me.
There you go.
Yeah.
Too close to home. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're here today with somebody that we've met before at a couple of different times on camera. We did some time with our friends from over at FIXE, Ryan Handel, their CEO, at the RFDC show recently, and then we're gonna hop on again here. They're everywhere now. What's the buzz?
And it's on theme, right? So, one of the topics, right, that just keeps coming up, right, is this idea of empowering restaurants with financial simplicity and clarity. And our guest today, Ryan, fits perfectly into that theme. So excited to dive in.
All right.
Let's have him out.
Yeah, no time like the present. So let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead and roll our intro. And then after that, we're going to welcome Ryan Handel from FIXE to the show.
Okay.
And we're back. All
right. Ryan, come on stage. We are excited to have you here.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be on.
Hey, Ryan, awesome. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Kwanzaa, whatever it is you celebrate, happy something. And so I think we all have a lot to be thankful for this year. And it looks like you're having a fantastic year launching FIXE and getting people to really know who the brand is, or getting FIXE out in the market. What's got you hyped about wrapping up this year as we go into our program here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, FIXE has been around for a few years now, but we're starting to get a little bit more in a national stage in the past, 12 to 18 months. And I think we have a lot of things to be thankful for as we head into the new year in 2025. I think being able to, deliver on what Chad has mentioned in the past about empowering restaurants to simplify their financials and take that lift off the operator so that they can understand how to run their business easier. And that's kind of like what we try to do. That's our mantra. And so I think more and more restaurants are seeing the advantages of turning over to a service like us that can really streamline the tech stack and help them run their business a little bit easier.
And for friends that don't know you, Ryan, a little intro, right? So you are a restaurant operator who happens to know bookkeeping as well. I like how you said that before. And you're a 14-year owner of the Simple Things Restaurant Group, a fast casual chain in LA. You're also the owner of the chain Tacos 1986, also based in LA. And of course, you're the co-founder and CEO of FIXE, which we're going to probably mostly talk about today. And FIXE, very simply said, is bringing restaurant bookkeeping into the modern era.
Yeah.
Is that about right?
That's about right. I mean, we've pitched this and we've talked to it and we've sold it to a lot of people, but I think he summed it up pretty well. I've worked in the restaurant industry now for, 25 years at this point, 26 years. And I own restaurants, and I was sick and tired of kind of the bookkeeping I was getting and the service and the lack of technology in the historically antiquated industry. And I thought there was a time to take a new set of eyes on this. So, my first chain, Simple Things, I opened it up back in right before Thanksgiving. I remember it to this day, Thanksgiving of 2010. I got it to a few locations. Thought I was going to be the next Chipotle founder or something like that. But, you take it as far as you can go. And then when COVID hits, you have to pivot. And then I got involved in a chain called Tacos 1986. It actually was my first client of FIXE. And I was so impressed with it. I was like, oh, I want to be involved and help you expand. So my partner, he's the brains behind it, and his partner, Joy. But I'm kind of their de facto CFO, financial advisor. And I've had a helping hand and helped them expand. But FIXE all started in about 2019, right before the pandemic, basically because I was sick and tired of what I was getting. And that's how it all started.
So there was a moment in time, right? Like origin stories, Spider-Man, he got bit by a spider, radioactive spider, he gets his superpowers, what is it in that concatenation of things that made you go, well, things out there aren't making me happy. There's not something that fits the need. What was it that crystallized going, I can do something about this problem?
Yeah, it was, I'd been using the same firm for a while, spending a lot of money, like $1,500 a month per location. And at the time I had 4 locations. So that's $6,000 a month. And my restaurants weren't doing we weren't blowing the doors off. We were doing about $1 million a year in sales. So $1,500 a month is a good chunk of change for those locations. And when I started just getting very frustrated with the firm that I was using and the lack of technology, and I introduced them to some technology that would make their life easier, they kind of said, oh, thanks, but we're going to make you pay for it, and we're not going to reduce our price, even though I was cutting their work time in half. And that's when I was like, what the hell? This is BS. And so I partnered up with my partner, who happens to be my wife's cousin, and he lives in Boston, similar to Chad in Belmont. And he's a financial manager. And he's like, Ryan, I don't know anything about restaurants. I know bookkeeping and I know financials. And I said, look, I got that covered. I know everything about restaurants. So we kind of stitched it together and we brought it into QuickBooks Online, and we used some third-party softwares. And before I knew it, I was managing my own books with 5 minutes a day of work, right? It's all of this software was working well together. And at that point, we said, oh, we should start doing this for other restaurants. And so at that point, we were bookkeeping has been in a historically unsexy industry. I'm let's spend some money on some cooler branding and a name. And our website launched in October of 2019. At that point, we did have a couple of clients, but I use that as kind of our start date, so to speak.
So who's your first keystone account? Which one was it that you call is your first? Now you're out of the gate, and who's your first flagship client there?
Honestly, Victor from Tacos 86. It was a funny story. So I went to Cornell. I went to the hotel school at Cornell. So I do have a fair amount of restaurant friends, and I went to all of them to be my first client. And they all said, well, let's wait till you get your training wheels off first. I was like, okay. But they introduced me to this guy, Victor, who had this hot taco stand on the side of the road in LA on Western between 6th and Wilshire. And at the time, celebrities and Instagram was all over his concept, and he was doing great. So I got introduced to him, and we kind of played it off and lied that we had a bunch of clients and we could take him on. We didn't. And so he was our first client. And, now we're at 8 locations. And so we joke about that story. He kind of gives me some crap about it. But yeah, he was our first client. And we will stick to it to this day.
I love that. A little scrappy founderism there.
Yeah, exactly. Make it a little bit.
So something else, I maybe it's crappy. Maybe I think it's more strategic than that, though. It's that made the decision to build FIXE on this core integration with QuickBooks Online, and as opposed to a standalone bookkeeping platform. Talk about that decision, right? Why did you do that, and what are some of the key benefits of that decision?
Yeah. So one of the biggest issues that I had with my firm, and that a lot of people have with if they're outsourcing their accounting these days, is just transparency. I didn't like the fact that when I wanted to get a report, I would have to call them and then they would scramble. And then a couple days later, they would give me access to it or give me the PDF of it. And I'm like, why can't I just have access to QuickBooks? I'll just go in and grab whatever I need. So at the time, QuickBooks Online wasn't as popular. When we brought it into QuickBooks Online, I realized that this cloud-based platform allowed for a tremendous amount of transparency. It allowed for a tremendous amount of access. And then in addition, it also allowed for other softwares to kind of integrate with it, right? I kind of also, like, I'm in demos and stuff, and I describe it as like if you own a Tesla, right, and you have a car, all of a sudden you wake up the next morning and it like updates itself and you have like all these new features. And that's kind of like what happens with QuickBooks Online. And so I'm like, you don't get that in desktop software, and you don't get that in really any of the other softwares out there. And so I was like, okay, this is a really dynamic thing that's going to grow, and we could build a platform that grows from it. And so that's where we started bringing everything into QuickBooks Online. So yeah, that's how it started.
So what I think is kind of interesting, right, and you mentioned this a little bit, is so when you're working with your customers, that transparency, right? And then you think about franchisees and how you support them, and how do you deliver the consistency of data to your franchisees and the benefit there. Can you give us a little bit of an example of how that actually helps the franchise operator, these multiple locations, and allay some of their worries?
Yeah. So when we started FIXE, and we kind of took the reverse route from like a typical tech company, right? We really focus on trying to like do all of our service and be the bookkeeper at first, and then eventually layer in our own proprietary technology. We've taken third-party technology in our tech stack, and now that we have like our feet underneath us and some money behind us, that we're starting to layer our own technology that creates our dashboard that lives on top of QuickBooks Online. The reason why I say that is because when it comes to a franchisor and a franchisee, we can now give access to the franchisees to their location. And if the franchisors, they don't have to wait to get the reports or wait for the franchisee to scrap together whatever reports their local bookkeeper is putting together. We just give them access, and they could access any of the locations. In addition, for the consistency of data, especially when it comes to like franchisors, we work hand in hand to customize a chart of accounts that's specific to your franchise or to the franchise concept, right? If you're a pokey concept, you're going to want to have different details of your seafood costs and things like that. And then we make sure it's the same chart of accounts in the same format for every one of the franchisees. And so that's what we can do. With our non-franchisor or franchisee clients, we have a standard chart of accounts to keep everyone consistent, but we work with the franchise concept to make a custom one that is specific to their brand.
And so having worked with franchisees for a while, I know that there's a sensitivity to what the parent company can see. Like, I'm sure there's some rails you put in there or ways that your permission sets.
Yeah, exactly. Like we don't give access to everything to everybody 100% of the time. So again, the owners can have access to QuickBooks if they want, but ultimately they have access to our dashboard. But we don't really give access to a report until we've reviewed everything and then we've confirmed it with the owner. And so that way the managers can't see it. So there is a layer of an approval process if they want that to have in place. And the same thing could happen with the franchisee and franchisor relationship. I've reviewed these financials. I've approved it. Now I'm okay to let the franchisor see it and see anything before that date range, whatever that might be. And so there's a layer of an approval process. And yes, they don't need to see all of the details. They could see kind of a collapsed, summarized version of them to keep that relationship consistent.
Fantastic. Yeah. Thanks.
So I'm imagining that controlled visibility, the consistency, and the transparency of your platform in the franchisee environment played well in November, right? You were at the RFEC event, abbreviated Restaurant Franchise and Development Conference. and you were meeting with people live there. You had a booth, and sometimes those kind of meetings, right, can add new perspective, right? So share some of your takeaways from that event in particular when you were running around with so many franchise operators.
We had a booth, which is we've gone a few years, but this is our first time having a booth at it. And at the booth, we had a lot of people walking by with, I would say, like 5 to 20 units of whatever chain of restaurants or concepts that they have. And then in addition to it, there was obviously all the franchise concepts that had booths there trying to sell their concepts to people attending the show. So I kind of categorized those two groups of people differently. So for the people that were walking by our booth, at that particular show, you have probably experienced operators that some have made a move to maybe Restaurant 365 or to NetSuite as their accounting platform, which are expensive softwares to adopt. They take a long time, and you need kind of a full team to just manage it on its own. And when people would come by our booth and realize that we could take a normal QuickBooks Online client or multiple QuickBooks Online clients and kind of aggregate them into like a centralized dashboard that kind of converts their QBO or QuickBooks Desktop, which we would convert to online, into a restaurant-specific platform, that kind of opened some eyes to what was available out there, which they didn't have before. In addition, there's always a talk of whether you do your accounting internally or you outsource it. And so I think having that transparency and not being afraid to give people access to that information allows for the outsourcing to become easier. When the outsourcing tries to create a wall and a barrier between the client and the outsourced, service, then people get frustrated, right? And then with the franchise groups that were out there, I think our price point is very, very, I use the word streamlined. I think it's very affordable. And I think it's affordable to have this as an option for the franchisees. And so the franchisors liked having something that they could refer to the franchisees, knowing they would get consistent financials, a tech stack that's validated at a reasonable price.
Something that's near and dear to everybody's heart, right? Scaling and growing, right? So many restaurants, they struggle to transition from single location businesses to multi-unit operations. And thinking about FIXE and your place in the world, how do you help with that?
Yeah. So I think there's a couple of ways. The consistent in the tech stack. So we kind of take this mentality that we really want to try to dictate the best in class software for our clients to make the operations easier on them. And so we don't really change the tech stack that we do based on concepts. It's very consistent, right? So it's QuickBooks Online. Currently it's Automate or Plate IQ for AP processing, although we are, forming a good relationship with Margin Edge. And then we use a software for aggregating the third-party apps like DoorDash and Postmates. But we try to keep it consistent. So that way, if you expand from one location to 2 locations to 5 or 10 locations, you're not trying to source these different softwares. Hey, I'm going to sign up for FIXE, and they're going to replicate that every step along the way to make it easy for the managers. All the managers are looking at the same screens and the same dashboards. In addition, because you have dedicated account managers at FIXE, we do have a support team, and then you have a dedicated account manager that's stateside. They are in charge of your account. And so they're going to be in charge of all of your locations. Obviously, if you're big enough, you'll have multiple account managers. You're not going to have different account managers based on each location. That remains consistent, and we try very hard to do that. So that also helps with that. The other thing is we're really good with the technology in this industry. We know how things talk with each other. So oftentimes, even though we don't provide it in our tech stack, let's say a scheduling software, or let's say it's a loyalty software, a lot of times our clients ask us about our opinions and if this works well. Because we have so many clients that we know their tech stacks, we can give them kind of hey, this works really well with this POS system, or this doesn't really work well with your type of operation, I would look into something else. And I think people rely on us for that as well.
Ryan, you're starting to hit on this, but I want to jump on this very specific theme and point, right? Something you think about FIXE is how much it depends on technology as well as that human service. So if you think about like the balancing of those two in terms of your customer's experience, how do you think about that? Do you think about it as in terms of like striking a balance, or is there another framework that you think about that through?
Yeah, I mean, look, I came from the restaurant industry. I'm not a bookkeeper to start. Be the first one to tell you that. And, being, in tune with the service that you're providing, the human element of it is never going to go away. Right. We do in our demos, we say in our demos, we like to say we automate about 80% of the bookkeeping, but there's still 20% that requires a human to look at everything, oversee it, be available if, hey, like an invoice comes in blurry, or if a vendor needs to get paid last second. We're going to try to automate as much as we can, but there is going to be a time, and this is where clients like what we do, is where they want to just get on the phone and call somebody and say, hey, something's not right. Can you just take a look at this? And we're there. Like, we don't give you a hotline number. We actually give you our account managers information, and then they respond in a timely manner. And I think we pride ourselves on doing that. Again, technology is going to help a lot. And I think there's a lot of things on our roadmap that I think we're excited about. But that technology, we're trying to eliminate the day-to-day monotony of the bookkeeping. So that way our account managers can focus on being the human support for our clients. And that is what our goal is.
No, it almost sounds like we're flowing to another thing, which is industry trends, right? And so with all that stuff coming up, or in mind, and all the things that are coming up next year and in our future, what are the things that you're tracking that we should really be paying attention to? And the trends you're noticing in restaurant finance, and how are you responding to them?
Yeah, so I think a trend is definitely like all-in-one versus different softwares, right? And so we kind of built this where we bring disparate best-in-class softwares all together, and we're trying to overlay it with our own dashboard on top, so that our clients interact with just our dashboard. We're not 100% there yet, but that is our goal for 2025, is to have like our clients just interact with the FIXE dashboard, and the stuff behind the scenes, they don't interact with as much. So what I've noticed is, obviously there's, the restaurant 365s of the world, or the Toasts of the world, where they're trying to bring everything under one umbrella. The problem is that whether they acquire a company or they build something on their own and it lives over their umbrella, it's not necessarily the best versions of that software out there, whether it's an inventory software or a payroll software. And so I kind of take a different approach. Like, let me find the best versions of all of this. Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to try to build like a portal where there's one point of communication. We're just interacting with FIXE. And so that is going to be a constant thing at NRA and all of these shows. Restaurants have to make a decision. Do I go, one-stop shop for the big umbrella, but not everything under that umbrella works that well together? Or do I use a solution that maybe brings some other softwares together, but it's the best version of those softwares, and they kind of are the point person for all of them?
Yeah, that is something I am really excited about for you, because one of the things we love is partnerships in this industry that work really well. And your point, that's absolutely the trend, the all-in-one, but you get to say, well, that's your experience customer, but behind the scenes that we're doing for you is we're pulling in these best of breed point solutions. So, but that happens through partnerships, right? That you are forging with these companies to make sure everything seamlessly nets and provides the best unified experience for your customers. Awesome. And there's so many cool technologies that kind of are under that finance and bookkeeping banner. So mm-hmm. like infinite possibilities there for you to keep adding more value to your clients. Love that.
100%.
And so that may be part of this next question I just have to ask. So if you're a restaurant operator listening to this and you're thinking about, okay, I think I'm doing an okay job, or maybe I know I'm not on bookkeeping. What are some of the questions you'd recommend a restaurant operator ask themselves, or a marker they look for that tells them whether they're doing a good enough job versus the ideal state, or the kind of bookkeeping level they'd have with Fix?
Yeah, some of it is very basic, right? Like, are my vendors getting paid on time, right? That's
Yeah.
pretty, that's a pain point, because if you don't get your product, something's wrong there. And again, we pay your vendors, but you have control, so we kind of queue it up and you approve on your own. But paying vendors on time is definitely one. Am I getting reports on time? And even if you're an operator that doesn't like looking at the P&Ls, you should at least feel comfortable asking for them, and don't feel like, every time you ask for something, like the bookkeeper is trying last second to put it together, kind of like doing your homework at the last second.
Hmm.
So definitely access to the information in a timely manner, and then getting responses in a timely manner. I mean, those are some basic things that if we could hit those bars, we're going to win over a ton of people. But then the end is my bookkeeper using the best technology, or do they not understand it, or are they unwilling to update kind of what's out there? And so even QuickBooks on its own, the desktop version, Intuit has said they've sunsetted making updates to that. So if you're still using like a desktop QuickBooks, it's gonna be a long slog, because it's not going to get updated for a while. They really want to convert people to online, and then with online, there's going to be a learning curve for those people to kind of understand how it works and how it works with other softwares. So that would be the last thing. Am I getting the best technology available to make my life easier as an operator? Like, I shouldn't have to work extra hard because my bookkeeper doesn't want to update technology. They should be making my life easier as an operator, and that's what we try to do.
The last part here, I think, is as we start to wrap this up, right, is thinking about the future of Fix, right? And so as Fix continues to innovate, are there new features, partnerships, or tools in the pipeline, like your dashboard you were talking about, that you're excited to share with your clients?
Yeah, so we have a like our multi-entity dashboard is kind of went live right around RFDC. So if you're a company and you have multiple ownership groups, or you're a franchise and you have a bunch of locations but different LLCs, you don't have to have like 10 different QuickBooks files and logging into each one. We have one dashboard where you can see all of it in one snapshot. So it can take any number of companies and aggregate it. You can compare yourselves to the average location or to the best location. And then we have a customized dashboard that's coming out for the restaurant operators. Our KPI dashboard, which for a lot of restaurant people, KPI means key performance indicators. So we're trying to make the information as easy to understand as possible. And so we have about 10 to 15 different widgets that you can populate and customize based on like labor costs or cost of goods sold, or your cash flow, which is important for small businesses. And then that could be like your dashboard for your company that's customized to you. And then by the end of the year, my biggest thing is with restaurant owners is like, in restaurant operators, they don't have time to, be in front of their computer all the time, but they are on their phones a lot. So we want to really have like text enabled reporting and text enabled KPIs. So that way the manager says, hey, here's my cost of goods sold and my labor and my sales for last week. It's trending in the right direction. And they don't have to wait for a report or log in to an app. It's just right there in a text message.
Is so we hit a certain number, it's going to send that text out, or how's that work? What's the mechanic that?
The mechanic of it is right now, well, it's going to start with the account manager triggering it, but eventually it's going to be, the manager of the restaurant could say, hey, what was my food cost last week? And then it will just text it right back to you. So that's going to be some of the stuff that's coming out that we're working on this year.
Oh, I hear AI on top of that all over the place.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that for sure.
That's awesome. Well, so this is a lot. Typically when I'm sitting here and I'm taking my key takeaways as we're going through this, I'll have maybe 3 or 4 I've got like 9. There's so many great things going on that you're doing. So if you will, I'm going to run through the takeaways we got for this. One, that, QuickBooks, right? This is a foundational piece. And the beautiful thing about QuickBooks Online for your clients is that as that product updates, it updates automatically and grows and evolves. As new releases come out, they can benefit from those. And that's the real value of that kind of SaaS service, right? I think that there's a real strong play here in the fact that you speed up the reporting that you need to get out to people by merit of the access you can grant to the franchisees or franchisees to the franchisor.
Correct.
I love the fact that there's a layer of approval that goes into that, saying, hey, these are things that belong to us and might be a little bit more sensitive, or I just don't want to let out. But then the ones I want a permission to let people get to, I think that's fantastic. The fact that it's affordable. Right. I haven't met a franchisee that woke up saying, boy, I'd like to spend some more money on a fee on top of all the fees I'm already paying. And I think, SaaS fatigue continues to be a real thing, and all the mountains of subscriptions everybody has, it becomes significant. So I think that some alleviation there is also great. You were talking about, you guys were spending like $1,200 a month across a couple locations. Yeah. 1,500, right?
Right.
Yeah. Like, who can do that? That's a lot of dough.
Yeah, I mean, we're based in LA. Maybe those are LA prices, but who knows?
You never know. And then I love the fact, and I think I caught you said that your support team is US based, or your account managers are US based. They're going to have a person here that picks up that understands what they're going through or talking about, and that goes a long way, I'm sure, with our community. And then also you automate 80% of the bookkeeping, and the other part, back to those people we're just talking about, are covered by these dedicated account managers that know the business of your clients that you're bringing in. It's not like, my man Bob, I'm gonna look up your stuff, I don't know what I'm talking about, let me dip in and see if I can give you some kind of scripted response. This is somebody that's intimate with the business of your clients.
Correct.
That's phenomenal. And then the other one is that, this dashboarding thing, and you said it a number of times, and this sounds like it's a cornerstone of the things that are evolving and coming out in 25, whether it's a unified dashboard of the disparate systems, whether it's your ability to dashboard and pull in multiple LLCs into an enterprise view of your business. I mean, that's the hotness, right? If you don't have to go to multiple places to find the information you need, we're more efficient. I can spend less time looking and more time understanding. I think those are the takeaways I had today.
You nailed it 100%. That's what we're trying to make it as easy on the operators. We want them to understand the information that's presented to them. I don't need to send them mountains of reports and for them to sift through data. Let's try to simplify this and get you focused on running your restaurant.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Ryan.
Awesome. Well, I know whether you're a restaurant operator listening to this, or you're another tech company in the industry and you like what Ryan's putting down, right? There may be a partnership opportunity there. Connect with this guy, right? So this is kind of our ask to you. Connect with Ryan Handel on LinkedIn, or if you're interested in, learning more, go to their website, getmyfix.com. You can learn more about there. You can request a demo and all of that. And so just start the conversation if you see what Fix is doing and what Ryan's doing is meaningful to the industry like we do. Ryan, been a phenomenal guest. Thank you.
Yeah, and if you didn't get all that stuff, you can find everything in the description below. We'll make sure you're able to click on his website and his LinkedIn profile, and we'll have that available to you too. So make sure you check the description if you didn't catch all of that. Ryan, last part. What are you doing for Christmas or your holidays?
Well, thank you for having me. Holidays, we're a big ski family, so we're going skiing in about a week. But the next week here in LA, we'll be hanging out and celebrating, and then right after Christmas, we'll be going skiing in Colorado, which we're excited about. Yeah. I also overheard you guys talking about your favorite Christmas movie. I know this is like a hot topic.
Yeah, what's yours?
Yes, it is.
I mean, look, I'm an action film guy, so I'm gonna say Die Hard.
Oh,
that's a Christmas movie in my opinion.
What's that other Die Hard movie that just came out? It wasn't Die Hard. It's Bloody Night, the Santa one, where he goes crazy.
Oh yeah,
Violent
Night.
Violent Night. Yeah.
Violent Night. Tell me that wasn't Die Hard with Santa.
Yeah, that was. There's also the Red One Santa movie that just came out.
That's right. Ryan Reynolds and The Rock.
Yeah, my kid at school got in a fight because they argued if it was a Christmas movie or an action movie.
My daughter and I had an argument about Die Hard being a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
Well, this has been awesome, Ryan. Thank you so much. And everybody, make sure you tune in for our next podcast. And we're excited to be here. And thank you for everything you've given us in 2024. And we're excited to bring you into 2025. This is Ink Tank GTM and Chat GTM signing off.